It says broadcast will not be recorded. That's okay. Okay, then looks like we're live. So, welcome. This is Love Your Straight podcast with Toms and Aldwyn Altuney. Is that right
Aldwyn
pronunciation?
Altuney, yes, close.
Okay, very close. So
Yes.
yeah, Aldwyn is also known as Media Queen. She's done lots of work in journalism. She's a TV host, speaker, author of lots of books and really good books. And today we're gonna just talk about stress, how to love the stress, and Aldwyn's relationship with stress. So, is there anything you would like to tell about yourself so the listeners have some background, Aldwyn?
Sure. Thank you, Toms. It's great to be on your show. Really appreciate it. Yes, well, I've had a very interesting upbringing. I was born in Sydney, in Australia, in the Northern Beaches area of Sydney. Back in 1974, I was born. And I was what they call a first generation Australian. So
Mm.
my background, I've actually got Greek, Turkish, and Ukrainian
Mm.
background primarily. I've got quite a bit of European background. And in Australia at that time when I was growing up, there was a lot of bullying that happened in school. And also, as a child, I remember I had a pretty good childhood up until about the age of 6. And then at 6 years of age, I started to become more present to things around me. And my dad would watch the news every single night. He would watch not just one channel of news, but generally multiple channels of news. Would go from one news station to the next to the next. And I remember one night as a kid, I was so upset by what I saw on the news that I remember I was in tears. And I said to my dad, "Why are people so cruel? Why is the world so nasty?" And he hugged me and he said, "Darling," he said, "that's just how the world is." And at 6 years of age, we actually went back to Turkey where my parents were born. It was the first time in 10 years that they went there since they migrated to Australia in 1970, and saw their family for the first time in 10 years. And there was this beautiful big sheep that I befriended at my grandmother's place in a place called Iskenderun, which is on the south side of Turkey. And this beautiful big sheep, I was so excited. One day we were taking the sheep outside of the garage and we were taking it for a walk. I thought, fantastic. We were going to take the sheep out for a walk and go into the sunshine. And I'm walking along with this sheep in this beautiful big field. My whole family is there, all having a great time. And the next thing I know, these 3 guys grabbed the sheep from next to me. They dragged it onto a concrete block in front of us and pulled out a knife and cut the sheep's throat in front of us, which was absolutely traumatic for me as a 6-year-old to witness this. And what was actually happening is it was actually a Greek Orthodox tradition that when family come from a long way away, they sacrifice a sheep like Job did in the Bible. They sacrifice a sheep and it's a sign of prosperity. And what they do is they feed that meat to the poor village people. However, I didn't know this, and even if they had told me this as a 6-year-old, I wouldn't have got it. I would have just said, "Let me run away with the sheep and live happily ever after on the other side of the field," So I wouldn't have understood it fully. But for me at that moment, that was incredibly traumatic. I tried to save the sheep. I couldn't save the sheep. My dad was holding me back, and eventually I saw the sheep die in front of me, and it wasn't a quick exercise. The sheep was squealing. It was bloody. It was horrific to watch and witness. And then I ran away from the whole family and I literally sat on the side of the road and I bawled my eyes out. And from that moment, really my innocence was lost in that moment. And I started to hate the world. I started to hate other people. I started to not want to be here at that moment. It was like I died with that sheep on that block. And from there, I internalized my anger for many years. My dad said to me, anger is danger. I went back to school
Hmm.
in Sydney. Kids would bully me about my Turkish background. There was a lot of racism in Australia at that time. Now Australia is very multicultural. Things have changed a lot since that time, the last 40 years. But back then, it was really quite a racist area, particularly Northern Beaches, where there were a lot of Anglo-Saxons. There was mainly a lot of English people in that area, and they didn't really understand people from Europe or from other countries. And so for me as a kid, it was quite a tough upbringing to go through that, and it was a very stressful period for me. And interestingly, when Dad said anger is danger, I internalized my anger, which actually ended up leading to depression for me for many years. And it was only really when Dad introduced me to table tennis that I started to release that aggression. And when I was 8 years of age, as soon as I could basically see over a table tennis table, I started to beat the hell out of the ball, right? I was just used to whack the ball and I'd get all my aggression out in table tennis. And then before long, I became very good at table tennis. Then I became Australian junior champion at table tennis at a very early age. And then I represented Australia for 6 years through table tennis. And during that period, my first feature in the media happened when I was 10 years of age. I was on the Manly Daily in Sydney. I was in the newspaper at age 10. And I remember we were in our garage in North Balgowlah in Sydney, and we had a table tennis table there, and the photographer came out from the Manly Daily and he got up on a ladder to take a photo of me for the newspaper. And I remember looking at this photographer up on this ladder, and I remember thinking, wow, that looks like such a fun thing to do. I'd love to do something like that one day. And then at age 11, I was on a show called Cartoon Connection on Channel 7 in front of 2 million people on national television, which was very scary for me at the time to be on national television at age 11. And then I went on and I did a radio show at age 13. I used to write really aggressive poetry. That was another way I got rid of my stress and my anger, was writing really angry poetry. And so I started a poetry show on the local radio station, as you do as a 13-year-old. And then I ended up going on and doing a media degree and worked as a journalist for over 20 years right across Australia. I freelanced to magazines overseas, and I've had my own online TV show now for nearly 10 years. I've got over 800 videos on my YouTube channel. And so stress has been something that I guess I've grown up with in many ways. You know, even though I had a very, very loving family, my parents are the most beautiful people. They were so adorable. They've been together 52 years, and they were just doing the best they could with what they knew. You know, they came to Australia. They didn't really know what to expect. But they were Christians in Turkey, as a 99% Muslim country. They were discriminated against a lot in Turkey. And my dad, particularly because he had a Ukrainian father and they called him infidel, he was called a traitor, even though he was born in Turkey. He had a lot of issues in Turkey. So he couldn't wait to get out of there. And then he came to Australia, and then there's all the racism in Australia. So you can see it actually comes right down through the generations. And in fact, they say, Toms, that we have 14 generations of DNA that we carry with us. Now, interestingly, in my background, in my heritage, my great-grandparents were kulaks, what they call kulaks, which was in Ukraine when Stalin took over. They killed off 30,000 kulaks. And the kulaks were what they called rich land owners or farmers, right? These were the people that had people working for them on the farm. They were producing the food, etc. And they killed them all off. And my great-grandparents, at their property, Stalin's men turned up and said, get off your land. They said, where are we going to go? They said, it's minus 20 degrees outside. They took them out the front of the house and they hung them out the front of the house. And then their son, which is my dad's dad, was in another part of the Ukraine at the time. He started to speak up against the government. And then his friends came to him and said to him, you better get out of here now. Now they're coming to kill you as well. And so he ran away to Turkey, met my dad's mum, who was Greek, hence the Greek, Turkish, Ukrainian. So interestingly, in my own DNA, talking of stress, right, if I carry 14 generations of DNA, in my own DNA, I have ancestry that were killed for stepping up and that were running for their life for speaking up. And that's what I help people do now, is I help them step up and speak up. Right. And it's interesting. I know my ancestors are supporting me now with that journey. However, stress is something that I've battled with a lot of my life. And then being a journalist, constant deadlines, you know, it's like go, 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 go all the time. It's this full on adrenaline lifestyle. So stress has been something that has taken me quite some time to be able to navigate, Toms. And that's you know, I could keep going with this topic. There's probably some other questions you want to ask. So I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I really loved your story, and really appreciate is that really great awareness you have also from the early age of what's happening, and really beautiful in a sense how the simple story "Anger is Danger" has basically led you on a journey to try to still express anger in a healthy ways, first with table tennis and then through poetry, and how everything else led you towards actually being in media. Kind of really fascinating.
Yes, it's interesting. And then actually I released my anger also through the media, because I would watch stories. Back then there was no social media. So we'd get our stories from TV, from documentaries, from radio. And whenever I heard something that upset me or angered me, I would write a story about it. And so actually when I was at university, at the Canberra University in 1992 to 1994, it was back then. And I edited the university newspaper, and I would write stories about things like female circumcision, battery farming of chickens or cage eggs, what happens with eggs when you're buying, or the chickens when you're buying certain eggs. I did stories about recycling in the environment. I did a story about, in Australia, there were people at the time that were shooting ducks for fun, right? Duck shooting. And so the headline we had on that story was "Go and Get Ducked," right? It was in your face press. So I would write stories. It was another way I released my anger, because I thought if I can just impact someone in the world with helping to share this message, that I couldn't believe what was going on in the world. If I could just impact one person, it's worth putting that story out. So there were several ways I released my anger, Tom's. And then, actually through my teenage years, I also was very self-destructive as well, interestingly. So my teenage years, I went on a really downward spiral. I was very rebellious, and I was drinking a lot, smoking a lot, and I was doing a lot of self-harm at the time. I really didn't like myself, and it's been quite a journey to come to loving myself, actually, and to being kind with myself, because I always felt also growing up that no matter how much I did, it was never enough. My dad's a beautiful man and very ambitious kind of man, and I've noticed with my dad, he always, I guess, in a way, encouraged us to be the best we could be. And as elite table tennis players, there was always we could always just do that extra bit. And so sometimes it felt for me like no matter how much I did, it wasn't enough. And that was also incredibly stressful. And definitely led to a lot of adrenal fatigue for me in later life, depression, adrenal fatigue, a lot of adrenaline issues. And I had a lot of throat issues as a journalist too, a lot of stuff around my throat, which is all about speaking your truth. It's all your throat chakra is all around that. And so I had a lot of sort of health issues that came up around my throat. I still get the odd health issue here and there, but usually it's my body just telling me to slow down now when that does happen. However, the last few years, I must say, on this journey, it's been a conscious effort to actually take time out to slow down, because there's always going to be more we can do in business and in life, right? And so actually taking that time to slow down, to meditate, to do yoga. I love yoga now, and I love meditating, and I love going to the beach. I've always loved the beach, but now I notice if I don't go to the beach at least once a week, or I start to sort of crave it, and then getting to the beach, and mostly eating healthy food. Occasionally I splurge a bit on the unhealthy food, but mostly I eat fairly healthy too, and I think that makes a big difference as well.
Yeah, that's a really inspirational story, and shows the people that no matter where you are in journey, you can still get ahead and make things better. And I really saw how the awareness and consciousness was overarching the whole story. And actually, you mentioned one of, actually maybe two of the most limiting beliefs people have, limiting stories, which is I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So these are like two of the most defeating stories anyone can have, and everyone has them in one way or form, at least one part of the life, at least at some point. And it's a lifelong practice to dealing with them and conquering them. And it's beautiful to hear that it is possible to overcome them from you as well. And before we go any further, one of the first questions when we're talking about stress, I love to ask my guests here is, what would be your definition of the stress? How you define it in your own words? Always curious to hear.
Stress. Well, I think being in a stress state is like fight or flight. It's coming from the hindbrain. When we look at how the brain operates, it's being in survival mode when we're in stress. I see it as a state of the opposite of calm. So chaos. I would say stress generally is chaos, and I know there's good and bad stress, etc. But generally, when I see stress, I see it as bad stress. I see it as stress is not a good place to be. I think if you're in stress, you're going to be putting extra pressure on your mind, your body, your emotions. And when you're in a stress state, then you are limiting how life is going to look for you. You limit opportunities that might come your way. You actually repel people when you're in stress. So I see stress actually generally as a very negative thing. I see it as a way that it actually keeps people playing a small game in life. I see it as something that we actually don't need to be in stress, even though I know that for a lot of my life, I just thought that's how life was this stress state, particularly watching a lot of negative news and dramas. And, I just thought, oh, life had to be dramatic. Otherwise, I'm not living life, whereas I realized actually in slowing down, in taking time to get some sunshine and take some deep breaths out in nature and to appreciate the animals, things like that. Those simple things in life are often the best, they say. So stress for me, for a lot of my life, has had a very negative connotation. I hope that answers
So
that
yeah,
question.
I noticed that you also mentioned, I noticed how you mentioned that that there's also a good and bad stress. And we surely heard already from you that you have experienced lots of bad stress. I'm curious about your views, or maybe even, not even definition, but how do you feel, how would you describe the good stress?
Well, I guess the good stress, it's a fine line, the good stress area. I would say good stress is, I think we need sometimes, so it's sort of like when you go to do a public speaking gig. If you go to do a public
Mm-hmm.
speaking gig, for most people, they would rather be dead than doing the public speaking gig, right? So there's going to be some stress that will come up for a lot of people when they go to do a public speaking gig. You could look at that stress as excitement, right? That could be good stress, right? That could be like, okay, so this is now, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone right now, right? And of course, that's going to challenge me and it could put me into fight or flight. However, I know that if I take on this challenge where I know I will grow as a human being, if I take on this challenge,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to die on stage. People won't throw rotten tomatoes at me, very unlikely, because they most likely won't have rotten tomatoes in their hand to throw at you. But, people have all sorts of misconceptions of, what's going to happen when they get up on stage and speak. So that kind of as an
Yeah.
example, when we step out of our comfort zone, there's going to be stress that may happen. But sometimes it's when we
Mm-hmm.
notice that stress and we move through it, we act anyway. We have fear and we
Mm-hmm.
act anyway. That I see as good stress, because that I see it's like excitement. It's like nerves and nerves equals excitement in a way. And so
Mm-hmm.
depending what we're going to do in that moment, that can be a positive, because then we're acquiring a new skill. We're overcoming our own sense of insecurity about ourselves. We're being able to be of service to more people if we do public speak about whatever's on our mind, as an example. Whereas if it's someone about to jump off a bridge to go kill themselves, well, that's something that that's a negative stress, because we don't want you dying, right? There's a reason you're here on the planet. You are 1 in a billion by being born, as I say to people. And, for me, a lot of the journey too, Tom's, has been, I have put a lot of money into my personal and business development. In fact, about $500,000 I've invested in my personal business development since 2005. So 17 years I've been consistently doing courses, doing inner work, doing retreats, doing the outer work, doing the business work. And I think that has been really crucial for me too on my journey of helping to eliminate stress from my life. Because another thing I realized growing up is that I was very much a people pleaser. I was a people
Mm-hmm.
pleaser. And when someone was nasty to me, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? And geez, how can I just, make sure everyone's happy? And, and the thing is, you'll never be able to make sure everyone's happy, because that's an inside job, right? And what I realized, absolutely golden line that someone said to me, they said, hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. I was like, oh my goodness. So those people being nasty to me, it had nothing to do with me at all. It's just that they were hurting. Right. And so nowadays I just send those people love. I don't have to hang out with those people. And I think that's the thing, is our environment is absolutely crucial. And having people around you, ideally, that are lifting you up and that are being a stand for what's possible for your life. So that when we do have any kind of stress in our life, if it's moving out of our comfort zone so that we have growth in our life, I see that as a very positive stress, so to speak. And I have some amazing people in my life who support me on that journey now, so that if I have any moments of self-doubt or anything that creeps in, I can just pick up the phone and speak with someone who, and get some coaching around that, because even all coaches need coaches, right? So so
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that journey now, to have experienced those highs and lows of the good stresses and the bad stresses. Yeah,
Mm.
whereas bad stresses can be debilitating, right? Bad stresses is when like I look at my depression journey when I've gone into these really dark holes where I haven't wanted to come out. And there were times, many times over the years, I would just go to bed, or I just in the middle of the day sometimes and just cry for no apparent reason, just have this real sense of
Mm.
sadness for the world and anger. And I don't see that as a very positive stress. However, in saying that, it is good to release emotions. So that is
Mm.
something that now I've seen it's very positive. If you feel sad or you feel angry, actually release the emotions. It doesn't mean you have to hurt somebody by doing that. You can go into the jungle and just scream your head off. In fact, I think I'm due for a scream to let some of that anger out, actually, Tom's. Next time I head out
Mm.
into the bush, I might go have a good scream with the birds and let some of that anger out.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yes.
really love how deep you went to this answer and how you really, in a good way, explain how you got to the place where you are right now, where you kind of intuitively already know all the stress management techniques, going out, releasing emotions, being in nature, grounding, to the beach, eating healthy. Like, we already heard so many good tips what to do, and from sound of it, you already kind of intuitively know what to do when you want to feel good. And also, I love how you mentioned that it wasn't like, I wouldn't say, I don't like using word easy, but it wasn't just suddenly out of magic, out of nowhere, that you uh, got to this state, that you actually invested in yourself and you actually studied these things over years, that you put lots of time and effort to develop this skill of stress management. Because as you said, you've been in such a dramaful environment that you actually had to learn to cope with it in healthy ways in order to stay healthy, beautiful, vibrant, and I really love that. And why I
Thank
actually
you.
asked you about good stress is that how I see it, in order to love the stress, you kind of have to be at least compassionate towards it, if not even start liking it, appreciating for good it brings to your life. So, how would you think about the title? How do you resonate or don't with the title "Love Your Stress"? I'm curious.
With the title of my stress, what do you mean by title? Just if you can clarify that.
No, the title of the podcast, "Love Your Stress."
Oh,
My
love your
podcast
stress.
title is "Love Your Stress." So, what are your thoughts about this?
Love your stress. Well, I see that as a positive. Love your stress is like, because firstly, you're noticing that you're stressed, because a lot of people are stressed and they don't notice they're stressed. It's
Mm.
like, it's like they've just got their head buried in the sand and they don't realize their head's buried in the sand. So
Mm.
love your stress. I actually love that title because firstly, you're noticing there's stress going on. And the minute you notice it, you can go, well,
Mm.
is that good stress or bad stress? Is this something that is going to help me grow in life and evolve? I'm either green and growing or ripe and rotting, they say. There's another great saying, green and growing or ripe and rotting, right? So is it a stress that's going to have me green and growing,
Mm.
or am I going to be ripe and rotting with this stress, right? And then what do I
Mm.
want? What am I going to choose? Do I want to feel good today, or do I want to feel like crap? And it's a choice in any moment. So loving your stress is brilliant, because either way you can choose to be kind with yourself no matter which stress, whatever label you put on your stress, good or bad, right or wrong, whatever label you want to give it. It's all about perspective. And you can choose in any moment, are you going to be
Mm.
hard on yourself, or are you going to look at what's going on? Because I think stress actually happens to teach us something, to show us something. So, for example, even just 2 days ago, I got sick, Toms. Now, I had a massive week last week, and I know I pushed
Mhm.
myself to extremes. Last week, I had got so much done. I had an amazing week. However, then it came to Monday afternoon, and I crashed. I was just like, I just had to sleep. And so I slept from 2 p.m.
Mm.
Monday till 8 a.m. on Tuesday, right? Totally out, felt really crap. And then I woke up and I felt a million times better. So my body told me I needed to
Mm.
rest, right? And that was just a few days ago. So it's
Mm.
like it's like a roller coaster ride of life that we go through, is how I like to describe life. Put the seatbelt on and just stay strapped in and go for the ride, right? Because we're going to have these ups, we're going to have these downs, and it's all about, are we going to enjoy the journey? We're going to choose to enjoy the downs and the ups, because when we go into those downs, it's there to teach us something. And if I hadn't listened to my body on Monday afternoon and actually slept, and if I kept going, then potentially they say we get hit in 3 ways in life. We get hit by a feather, a brick, or a Mack truck. We'll get the lessons, right? And this is the thing. If you get the little health warning and you don't listen to it, then something bigger will happen. And next thing, you could end up in hospital and potentially dead. And in fact, I actually had a few years ago, I was emceeing at a big music festival here called Woodford Folk Festival. And I was emceeing for a guy called Colin Hay from Men at Work. He did the amazing song Down Under, for anyone knows the I Come From a Land Down Under, if anyone knows that song. They did that song. Anyway, I was emceeing for them at the festival, and my throat was really quite sore. My throat started to become really sore, and I thought, it's just a flu, just a normal cold. I'll just have some lemon, and I'll just, but I kept going, because I was emceeing, and we were doing late nights, and sort of I had to be there for those times. So I pushed myself, and then next thing I know, my throat started to swell up. And I thought, this is really unusual. This hasn't happened before. And they ended up rushing me to hospital. What ended up happening was I had what they call a quinsy in your throat. And your quinsy is like an abscess. It's like a bad form of tonsillitis. And what happens is your throat grows. And if you don't treat it within 2 or 3 days, you could be dead, because it will block your airways and kill you. Right. So I ended up in hospital. It was over New Year's Eve a few years ago. And I was on antibiotic drip. And for the whole New Year's Eve, I just was in bed in hospital, resting, watching the fireworks on the TV, right? And that was a really big wake-up call for me. That was the Mack truck hitting me. That was really, if I hadn't slowed down at that point and just kept going, potentially I was going to run myself into the ground. So it's actually noticing those signs that come up before it becomes too late. And we see, we've seen since COVID, we've seen people dropping dead all over the place, having heart attacks, and, at much younger than anyone would have expected. Because the stats are, Tom's, that 1/3 of people die by the age of 65. That's the statistics, right? 1/3 of all people die by 65. But we've been seeing through COVID, we've been seeing people die a lot younger than that. And plus, we've had 4 times the suicide rate since COVID. So, we're seeing a lot of people just drop off the planet that are not coping with the current stresses, I guess, of what's going on in the world. The limits on our freedoms, the push for vaccinations, all that kind of stuff, right? Whatever our opinions are, what the politicians are giving us, all the lies that we're fed by government, that goes on and on and on, right? You wonder why people have trust issues. We've got people running the world that are as corrupt as they come, Of course, do your own research on that. And I do have a great group, Tom's, called Conscious Community Global, that has some life-changing documentaries in it, in the Facebook group. If anyone wants to find out more about that, it's very interesting what's going on in the world. And we're starting to see the Great Awakening happening now. There's a big reset, I believe, happening right now in the world. And some people are really not coping with the stress, and some people are embracing it, and they're turning that dark energy into light energy. And I think that's the way forward now for us as a humanity, for a new awakened civilization, is actually to come from this loving, kind space and to actually be the best versions of ourselves we can be as light beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, I believe, right? So to be the best versions of ourselves, to connect to source. And there's the Samadhi documentaries that are featured in that Facebook group, Conscious Community Global. There's another one called Thrive, which talks about the power of us as human beings. There's some phenomenal things that will blow people's minds, because we've been conditioned to live small lives as human beings. We've been conditioned to do as we're told, to obey authority, to trust authority. And now we're seeing a big collapse of authority because people are losing faith in governments and in what's going on in the world. In Australia, we've had so many lockdowns. It's ruined businesses. So many businesses have gone under now because of what the government has, decisions that they've made around COVID, right? As an example. Anyway, I sounded a bit stressed as I was sharing that. Maybe there was a little bit of stress coming out there, Tom. It's good stress.
Well, talking and regardless if it's good or bad, self-expression, talking with the friends, it's one of the best ways to release stress. As you said, any way of expressing it, meeting with a friend, going with the pets, and or just shouting out with the words, as you said before. And
Yes.
amongst those things, I was curious, what are your go-to stress release tools that work for you the best? Because you said you've been crashing a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you took for a sleep. However, I really love how you mentioned the quote, hurt people," and
Mm,
usually it's really helpful understanding that other people might hurt you if they are hurt. But I also like to flip things around because quite often when we're hurt, we hurt ourselves as well. So it's kind of
yes.
flips around. And when you're stressed, you quite often don't want to release that stress. You hold on to it. So you're hurt and you hurt yourself even more. And that leads to those crashes you said. And I was curious to know about your view about this perspective. Have you seen it in yourself? And what are your advices to actually not crash? How to actually avoid it by proactively releasing stress on day-to-day basis? And what works best for you?
Great questions, Tom. So we're going to love this because yoga is one of my go-to things. In fact, just before the interview I did
Mm,
with you on my show, Media Queen TV, I ran off to a yoga class. Right? I know I could have done one at home. However, I like to actually get out of the house and actually
yeah.
go to the gym. And we actually have it
Mm,
at the gym I go to. We have a mind and body studio, and it's just for things like yoga and Pilates. And
hmm
so I actually ran off to do a yoga class.
mm,
After a full day on the computer on an online event. I thought I can just fit this yoga class in between our interview, and I'm
mm,
so glad I did because it just absolutely is just what I needed at that time. So yoga is a huge one for me. Meditation,
mm,
I love guided meditations. I love going to the beach. That's another huge one for me. I know, and particularly during the day in sunshine. Right now, it's nighttime on the Gold Coast in Australia, so
hmm
now I would not recommend going into the ocean right now. However, during the day when the sun's up, I love it. And even on overcast days, I was in the ocean the other day. Even during winter here on the Gold Coast, I was the only one swimming in the ocean. It was just me plus the whales and a few lifesavers looking on. It wasn't I couldn't really see
mm,
anyone else in there, and maybe a few surfers as well with the surfboards in the ocean. But I jumped into the ocean and I was in and out in about 2 minutes. But I tell you what, I felt so invigorated by that. So that was a huge go-to for me to release my stress. Also, sometimes cuddling my cat. I have a beautiful cat called Tiger, and a beautiful tiger. He was floating around here before. He's now 14, going on 15. I adopted him when he was 1 year of age, and he's the most adorable. He had high anxiety, my cat, when I first got him, and we've given him so much love, and he's so adorable. You can just cuddle him, and he sleeps with me, and he's just absolutely beautiful. So I love cuddling my cat. I feed the possums here at my
mm,
house in Southport. I just gave some food to the possums before. So I love connecting with nature. I love watching
mm,
animal documentaries is another thing I do. I love the David Attenborough documentaries. And in
mm,
fact, there's a great documentary series on Netflix at the moment called Animal. If you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, that's
mm,
so well done. It's not a David Attenborough one, but it's called Animal. And there's a whole series on, they've got one on apes, and they've got one on tiger, on the big cats. It's fantastic. You'll love it. So I love animal documentaries. I love comedies as well. I also, if I ever feeling flat as well, sometimes I'll just put my favorite comedy on. Usually it's Two and a Half Men with Charlie Sheen in it.
mm.
I love Two and a Half Men. I think Charlie, particularly with Charlie Sheen, he's an absolute
Yeah.
hoot. But I also love the old English comedies, George and Mildred, and I Dream of Jeannie, and all
Mm,
those kind of. There's so many good comedies that I grew up with as well that I really love. I play my ukulele sometimes. I've started to get back into playing my ukulele, which I really
mm,
love. And even though I play badly and I'm out of tune when I sing sometimes, I still have fun doing it, and that's the main thing. Right?
mm,
Just enjoy it. And then sometimes I just sleep. Sometimes I just need to sleep, and so I'll actually go and have a
mm,
nap sometimes. So actually not feeling guilty about having a nap or having some time out to do something for me, actually having those boundaries rather than give, and then what happens is you deplete your energy and you end up drained, giving so much to others and to clients, etc. So now I've learnt to fill my own cup up and help others with the overflow. I've learned that now. It's been quite a journey. And so now I've learned to say no as well to some things. And the clearer we are on what we want to do in life and where we're going, the easier it is to say no to things. In the past, I would say yes to just about everything. I just wanted to be liked. I just wanted to belong. I never felt I belonged. All those things. So actually just getting conscious to how we're operating and actually learning to love myself and appreciate myself just as I am and just as I'm not, right? It's and actually getting that life is perfect exactly as it is, and everything is there to teach us something. And if we don't get the lesson, we'll keep getting the lesson until we get the lesson. We'll keep attracting the same things until we get the lesson, right? We keep attracting the same partners. We attract the same kinds of experiences. There's no coincidences, right? We keep attracting it because that's what we're putting out. What we put out, we get back. And so, also affirmations. I love I've got a whole lot of card sets and things here as well, like yourself. I love also watching, positive events, like things like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins. I love watching, some amazing inspirational speakers. There's so much, Toms, I could go on. I mean, I just love life, really. I absolutely love life now, thank God. Thank God I didn't, kill myself back in my teenage years when I was so depressed. I was having a good go at it by drinking and smoking and taking drugs and all of that. I had a good go at it, but I didn't kill myself, so obviously it wasn't my time yet. I tell you what, it makes me more grateful to be alive now, Tom's, having gone through that journey of the dark periods of my life, that's for sure. Yeah.
You had so many things that you do and one can do that for the person actually under stress, it could get actually quite overwhelming. Where do I start? Like, there's such a big abundance of the things to do, and how do I know which is right for me? And as you were talking, I had this thought coming to my mind that you mentioned about being a people pleaser before. Do you have like a one thing? One advice you would say in sentence or two for this person that help you the most or would be the most beneficial for these kind of people to come out of it?
Yes, for the people pleasers, I get you, I see you, and this is a particularly big thing with women, particularly, right? We want to save the world. It's kind of in our DNA almost. We want to save our men, and we want to save. The thing is, for women, we need to learn, for a lot of us, boundaries. And
Boundaries.
for me now, in my diary, in my calendar, I actually highlight different things in my calendar. I actually have I have an online calendar, and I still like to actually write things down. I have a handwritten one, and I highlight things in different colors depending on, is it me time? Is it work time? Is it interviewing someone time? Is it house time? And I do different colors. So then I can look at my whole week and go, okay, how balanced is my week depending on the colors, right? And I make sure that there's that definitely that me time in there. So it's getting those big rock things in there first, because without your health, nothing else matters. And so making time for health is really, really crucial. Whatever it is for you, getting what your values are. Is relationships, family, what is it that's really important for you? Make sure you have some time for that in your week, and then fit everything else around it. Put the things in your week that are going to give you energy, that are going to energize you to have an amazing week. Put those things in first. They're your big rock items, and then you can fit all the little things around that. Right. And learning to say no, learning to have boundaries and not feel bad about it. And in fact, the more you have boundaries, the more you say no, the more people will respect that as well. So I used to give a lot of time to clients as well, as another thing where I just gave and gave and gave and gave. And then I learned to stop that, right? I still give generously, but I've learned to now not be as generous. And I've actually doubled the prices of my media programs now. I actually learned to value myself more, to the fact where I doubled my prices, and people are quite happy to pay double the prices because it's still an amazing deal, right, with what they're getting with working with me. But, being okay with that kind of stuff, actually, valuing yourself enough to actually charge what you're worth as well if you're in business, to actually honor and value yourself. It's great to do the free stuff, but when you're giving so much, you will end up totally depleted. And just back to those things that energize me too, just a few other things I thought of is cooking. I love cooking. I love
Mm.
gratitude, and this is why I started the Global Good News Challenge during COVID, is to help share more gratitude and good news. And also dancing is something else I love as well. So sometimes I'll just put
Mm.
on some great music and I'll just have a little dance and a sing at home. And that could be just a few minutes that could totally shift your state in a day if you're feeling flat. So whatever it is for you, I do have a lust for life now, and there's so much I love to do. I love to travel, and thankfully this year I've got my first overseas trip in a few years planned to go to Thailand in a few months' time, and
Mm.
possibly America later in the year. So we'll see how that goes. But traveling definitely invigorates and energizes me as well.
Mm.
So maybe I'll see you in Latvia, Toms. Who knows? I might come and pop into
Maybe
Latvia.
if I'm still here, because I'm also love traveling and I'm moving around as a digital nomad. So who knows? We might meet somewhere else as well.
Uh-huh. We could do. Well, I've
Yeah.
never been to the Ukraine. I've got family in the Ukraine, and my heart goes out
Mm.
to all those over in the Ukraine at the moment. Thankfully, my family is okay, but it's been. I mean, there's no winners in war, right? And that's something that can cause a lot of stress, right? War
Mm.
is something that if you think of World War I, World War II, and now whatever wars, there's no winners in war. So I'm sure everyone just wants peace. Really, at the end of the day, we all want
Mm.
peace. That's what I believe. Essentially, we want peace. But I think we've been conditioned to live in drama and in war. I think we've been conditioned by the media programming, by the world around us, from what we've seen from authority figures. And now I think there's a big uprising happening where we are stepping into our own divine consciousness and realizing actually how powerful we are as
Mm.
human beings. And the more we realize that, the more we can actually shift our state and shift our lives and shift the lives of those around us as well. That ripple effect of people stepping into their power. I think it's a beautiful thing that I'm seeing happening at the moment. And the divine feminine energy also on the planet, that
Mm.
kindness, that love that is coming through at the moment is really, really powerful. So I think watch this space, Tom's. Interesting times ahead. There's no coincidence we're here alive on the planet at this very interesting time in the history of
Yeah.
humanity, Toms.
Yeah. I really love how you mentioned that we're conditioned to take things dramatical because we even have a comment here. I can relate to needing life to be dramatic at times. And I could
Yes.
actually contribute to the programming we have. Um, all the news, media, TV series, movies, basically all the content we consume on day-to-day basis, it kind of encourages that this is normal. This is okay to make dramas in the daily life, and this is how we actually program our brains or that search for patterns and says, okay, it's okay to have drama. So I have this unexpressed emotion. We talked about lots of expressing emotions, and it makes sense if you have this programming that drama is a healthy way of expressing emotions, that that's what people do. And what would be your way of because I know you've been you said in your story that before you were expressing your anger with anger poetry, and then you express it also with all kinds of news. How do you express your feelings these days? So it's I imagine that you also keep in mind not to program society towards expressing dramas. So how do you approach it to express your negative emotions in a healthy way, so that people don't get programmed to the acting out those
Mm,
dramas in
yes.
unhealthy ways?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love this question. So cool. And I love that comment that just came up. Thank you for the person that just made the comment there about that. Yes, I can relate to needing life to be dramatic at times. Is it Aiva? Is that how you say that? Or Leva? I can't see that properly.
Eva,
Probably need
Eva,
Leva. Oh,
it's Eva.
okay. Leva. Thank you so much for that comment. Because this is the thing, is that a lot of people live in drama and are not conscious to the fact that they live in drama. So the minute
Mm,
you're actually conscious to the fact you're living in drama, and that you're creating and attracting that drama, because that's what happens. People who love to live in
mm,
drama, they just keep attracting drama. Like when there's nothing dramatic to be dramatic about. There's no extra drama going on. They'll just create drama. It's like, what's the problem now? This is where we have people that you seem to be bipolar. Like 1 minute they're fine, everything's calm, and next minute they're flying off the handle. And it's like, what? There was a shooting star in the sky. What was it that just created this drama? What's going on? And that leaves people like sometimes, and I'm sure we all know people like this in our lives. No one here, of course, in our vicinity, but this is other people we're talking about, right? that like this, So I've noticed some of my friends, people in my life, sometimes they can be quite dramatic, so one thing I do is I protect my energy, right? I put a field of energy, and then I'll often flip and I'll say, was there anything? So if someone's being dramatic and constantly going on with drama, that I don't feel is really any major drama. I think they're just carrying on because they're just wanting to be dramatic. I'll say something like, is there anything else you'd like to be grateful for today? Or anything else you'd like to say that's positive today? And I just sort of turn it around and just flip it, and so it's just getting conscious to, and that usually makes them more angry, which actually doesn't always help. So, so nowadays I definitely protect my energy, and the way that I vent when I get angry, because I get angry sometimes too over certain things. Sometimes I get triggered. Right? Like, I don't know, it might be the smallest thing. Like, I don't know, someone might say something, and actually someone else might look at it and go, that's not dramatic at all, when you're creating drama out of nothing. So a great thing that I love to do is I call up a girlfriend and I'll just have I'll just go, I'll get it off my chest. And then I feel much better. And it's like, okay, now I'll just go deal with it, right? And so, however, what I've noticed going through my journey of having depression and going through those angry states, in the past, before I did the personal development work, I would stay in drama for months at a time, right? Sometimes 3 months at a time, I'd be in drama. And whereas now I'm able to shift things in a matter of one phone call. It could be something as simple as, noticing I'm angry, letting it out with a girlfriend, just go, and I'll never throw anything at anyone or never hurt anyone physically. That's not my style, right? I definitely don't do that. Although I do like to just verbally let it out. And I used to do a lot of artwork, a lot of very aggressive artwork. I haven't done any lately, but growing up, I used to do a lot of artwork as well. So any sort of creative expression to let that anger out was really good. I haven't screamed in the forest. I've had a few people say to me, Aldwyn, I think you're due for a scream in the forest. So maybe, that's something I can take on next time. So I have attended quite a few retreats where I've been working on that inner stillness and that being and the yoga and the meditation and, silencing that monkey chatter, all of that. It's been quite a journey and quite a challenge, I must say, Tom's, to silence my very active mind.
Yeah, that's one more thing I've seen many times. For different people, different methods of healing are to be applied. For some people, doing yoga and meditation works really well. And for more energetical people like me, and probably also you, doing straight away meditation yoga is not working out of the box because you have so much energy to release before that. So, and I always love how it's just about listening what other people say to you, like as a feedback. Like you said, people say you're due to scream in a forest, so people actually are kind enough to tell you what you should be doing. So, and then you kind of, maybe I am a bit too dramatizing things.
Yeah,
So
actually, there's only been a
that's what I
few
love.
times that people have said that. It's not every person I speak to say, Aldwyn, go and have a scream in the forest. Thankfully, it's not everyone, but I have had a few people say that, and I haven't done that. I must say, even screaming, the act of screaming kind of could be stressful for me. You know what I mean? So there's probably a part of me that is fearing the scream, So that's something interesting.
That's why
I've
you
been
go to the
avoiding.
forest. That's why you
Yeah.
go to forest, not to be judged by anyone else except yourself.
Yes, and a few animals. You might scare a few animals away in the forest, poor things. Go somewhere where there's no animals.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think definitely some kind of release. Actually, another thing I do sometimes at the gym, I will do a dance class, like a Zumba class, and it's quite high. The Zumba class is quite cool to get rid of a bit of that, and sometimes I do weights, but mostly I do the yoga, etc. Mostly I do do the chilled work at the gym, because often with my work life, it's go, go, go. So it's nice to actually just go to the gym and just relax. And I have a sauna. I have saunas. I love saunas as well. So I'm often in the sauna, and that's another way, just I guess letting some steam off, letting some steam off, literally.
Yeah, saunas are really amazing, especially if you do the hot-cold exposure. Then you put your body under such a high amount of stress that, and because these days people have 99% mental stress, so it's repetitive thoughts and repetitive negative thoughts that actually cause the stress. If you put your body under the physical stress, which brings no physical danger but still stress, like sauna, then you gradually start putting your attention and focus to present, to being in your body. And as you do any kind of exercises, weight training, dancing, you're getting so in tune with your body, so you're getting so present that you forget about all the mental chatter and all the negative thoughts. And in that way, you reduce your stress. And in sauna case, you sweat it out, and you're in any kind of exercise class, you shake it out. In dancing, you literally shake your stress out, and that's one of my favorite stress management, stress release tools, especially in case of traumas. I would love to share people that specific techniques to release trauma, which induce shaking. And you don't actually make it that complicated. Any kind of jumping and shaking is stress release. Animals do that. So just
Yes.
want to encourage people, just go dancing, shaking. It's really powerful.
They do. And actually, I have a little trampoline here as well. I hopped on that the other day, and I have been doing some retreats, some women's retreats where we actually did some yoga, where we did some shaking. We actually did some of that too. So I have been doing some of that, as well as some DMT breath work has also been really powerful for me. Some intense breath work has been really great to help me connect to my ancestors, and also to help me bring me back into my body as well. So many great things we can do. Gosh, this interview is just loaded with gold here, all these gems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And
Yes,
you
love
just
that.
mentioned breathwork. Do you have your favorite breathwork? Because breath is a really, really powerful tool, because everyone can do it, no matter how physically impaired or active you are. Anyone who
Yes.
breathes, anyone who lives, breathe, because you need that, and anyone can do breathing. So I was curious about what's your favorite breathing technique, or how do you
Well,
use breathing
lately
in
I've
stress
been
management for yourself?
Yeah, well, lately I've been introduced to DMT breath work, which is it's a way we can connect with spirit, basically with source. You breathe in through the mouth and nose as deep as possible, and then out through the mouth and nose. And you actually visualize the as you're breathing in and out, going through your whole body and through all the chakras, like going through the whole Taurus field, going out one way and then in the other way. Very, very powerful, about 15, 20-minute meditations. It's like a meditation and breath work together. Very, very powerful. And the more I do that breath work, the more I see my ancestors supporting me, the more I feel connected to source. It's incredibly powerful. And obviously through yoga again, practicing that breath as well, coming back to the deep breathing and then letting it out and all of that. So I think any kind of breath work where you're conscious of your breath and you actually breathe from the diaphragm as much as possible, and actually get conscious again where you're breathing from. I think that's magic as well. And so when I play the ukulele and when I sing, I'm conscious of breathing, particularly from the diaphragm. And for anyone that wants to be a singer, yoga is great for that, because you're doing that deep breathing, which is also strengthening your diaphragm for singing. So it has a
Oh,
extra
definitely.
add-on effect. Yeah. So so
So to
that's my
summarize
favorite,
this,
really.
I think the keyword for people who are, I was saying that to summarize this for people who with a lower attention spans, the key here is actually conscious breathing. Whatever kind of breathing you do, is it box breathing, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, any kind of conscious breathing will lower your stress levels and regulate yourself.
Yes,
And
conscious breathing.
another question. Another question I like to ask about in my interviews is how satisfied are you with your stress levels right now?
Oh, that's a great question, Toms. Look, it's interesting because I do notice myself now if I start to feel myself like, oh my gosh, I've got so
Mm-hmm.
much to do. Because I've had this story, Toms, that there's too
Mm-hmm.
much to do, not enough time. That's been one of these, disempowering
Mm-hmm.
stories. We in landmark education, they call it a racket, right? Everyone has some version of a
Mm-hmm.
disempowering story running in the background, no matter how much work we do on ourselves. And so
Mm-hmm.
this story occasionally pops up and it's like, oh my gosh, too much to do, not enough time, right? And so nowadays I'm
Mm.
able to notice it and then I'm able to actually brain
Yeah.
dump it and just go, hey, I've done the best
Mm.
I can for today. It can wait till tomorrow, that kind of thing. So I'd say my stress levels at the moment, I'd
Mm.
say out of 10, if 10 was the most stressful, stress is a negative stress, and one was good stress,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I probably oscillate between both at different times. I'm probably about a 5. I'd say I'm between the both, Toms. I think
Mm.
I have the good stress and the bad stress happening at different times. The beauty is now I'm able to notice that negative stress a lot quicker nowadays and notice when I get into overwhelm, because
Mm.
that's been another automatic state for me, is that sometimes I'll just get into overwhelm and I'll just go into this high achiever mode and then beat myself up if I haven't done everything that I want to get done for the day.
Mm.
Now it's really very much about just enjoying the journey. And so more and more, actually, it's probably more on the good stress side. Nowadays, like right now, I feel very
Mm.
relaxed talking to you, but I am aware after this interview, like it's 10 past 10 p.m. now, and I've got an early start tomorrow, and I've still got a list of
Mm.
things to do for tonight. You know what I mean? So there's the part of me like, oh, okay, there's
Mm.
still a few things to do. However, as people say, things will take as
Mm.
long as we allocate time for that task to take. And so I know also that sometimes I waste time on
Mm.
social media. I waste time scrolling on social media. I waste time doing stories and reels on social media. And so it's actually noticing too, where could my time be better used, where I'm not just getting distracted by bright, shiny objects like social media stories and reels on Facebook and Instagram. Right. Or cat videos,
Mm.
animal videos, that kind of stuff, which I love. They do light me up. However, I can spend
Mm.
hours and hours just looking at animal videos, when there's a list of things to be done for my business. You know what I
Animal
mean?
videos are powerful, yeah.
So it's actually just noticing, I've just
Yeah,
spent 2
animal
hours on
videos are
social.
powerful. No wonder.
Sorry, what was that, Tom's? I didn't
Yeah.
hear that.
And
What
I
did you
was
say
saying that
then?
animal videos are really powerful. No wonder. I was saying that animal videos are quite powerful, and no wonder there's a huge part of internet just for cat videos, dog
Yes.
videos, and stuff like that. And it actually helps a lot to stress release.
Yeah, well, there you go. Oh, well, that's probably why I do it, 2 hours of social media every night. Actually, I haven't done my 2 hours tonight,
Yeah.
but it tends to happen sometimes late at night where I'll just
Mm.
go through, "Oh, there's another, oh,
Mm.
that's a cool peacock." I love how the peacock's feathers go, like, it's just yeah, I just love animals. I
Mm.
could just watch animals all day. It's extraordinary when you
Mm.
start to look at these animal videos or nature videos or flowers, some of the flowers. There's a praying mantis flower out there. It looks just like a praying mantis that I actually shared
Mm.
yesterday up on my Facebook. There's some extraordinary things in the world. And, really, when we look at some of those things, it can remind us just how amazing the world is. What a wonderful world, as Louis Armstrong sang, right? What a wonderful world. It really is when we choose to see
Mm.
it that way, when we choose to focus on the things that we love about life.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful way to start wrapping the podcast up. And there are two more things I would love to ask you. And the first one is for the next podcast. Is there anyone you would like to recommend me to reach out to you to have a next episode of Love Your Stress? Does anyone come to your mind?
Oh, yes, I can think of lots of people. I could give you a big list, Tom's, if you like, after this. Lots of people I could suggest that you interview. Yeah, I can give you quite a few people, actually. So, yeah. Do you want a name right now, or because I
Which would be
can?
the top three? Yeah, just like at least one name, just a shout out, and then if you want, you can after send me privately. But just at least one or two people that come on top of your head that seem to be a
Okay.
good fit to have lots of experience with stress?
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's one I can think of straight away. One of my clients, a guy called Colin Lee, who is a buyer's agent in Brisbane. And
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, he was retrenched.
Mm-hmm.
He had a wife who was 7 months pregnant. And he started a new business
Mm-hmm.
called Inspire Realty. And now, in the last 2 years, he has a 7-figure business in just 2 years. And he went through a lot of stress, a lot of ups and downs through his life. He's from Malaysia originally, came to Australia 20 years ago, and he's an extraordinary man. So I'd say he would have some great stories around stress. The other person I recommend is Tracy Corman from Two's Company. She's someone who has had
Mm-hmm.
depression. In fact, I've interviewed her on my show, Media Queen TV, about how to overcome abuse and
Mm.
depression. And I've also interviewed Colin Lee on my show as well. And Tracy's actually overcome. She was in a relationship with a guy who physically abused her and mentally abused her. And she also
Mm-hmm.
got ripped off $300,000 at one point. And she's had some really low periods of depression and not wanting to be on the planet. And she's come through that now, and she has a very successful business as well now. So they're just two people I can think of just off the top of my head who would be amazing for you to interview, and so many more. In fact, a lot of my clients I could refer your way, because a lot of people who come to me, they do have extraordinary stories, and they're ready to share their stories, So they're the ones I know of because I've worked closely with them and I know their stories. However, I'm sure really everyone will have some version of their own, what stress has meant to them, etc. And I'm sure there's many amazing people out there also that would love to come forward and be interviewed by you as well, Tom. So it's important that they make themselves known.
Mm.
Yeah, I love this topic. It's so relevant, and it's so important nowadays, I think, for people to get conscious to where they're at with their stress. Yeah. So they're just a few for you,
And the
Toms.
final question. Uh, Thank you. I really appreciate. And the final
Pleasure.
question to finish up the podcast is, what's the best way to reach out to you for the people who resonate with your story, with the things you do? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, thank you, Toms. Well, for those who want publicity, that's what I actually help people do. I help people feature in the media. I help people feature on TV, radio, print, in online media, etc. There's a few ways I do that. Firstly, I've actually got a free webinar coming up called How to Gain Over $1 Million Worth of Free Positive Publicity. I'm very passionate about inspiring more truth and good news in the world to help lift the energy on the planet and decrease depression and suicide rates. So I have a free webinar. I have a masterclass, Free Publicity Secrets Masterclass, at a very low rate. It's only a few $100. It's amazing. And then we have a mass media mastery program for those who want to work closely together and they want me to show them exactly how to get publicity. And then the next level is we actually do PR for people. And we have the only company I know of, AA Expose Media is my company, the only company I know of that guarantees publicity. And so if anyone watching this is serious about sharing their story and making a bigger difference in the world, then best place is to hop onto my Linktree, Linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. And if you follow me on Eventbrite, you'll get all our event updates. Every month also we have the Global Good News Challenge, which you can participate in absolutely free. That's on Facebook, and you just do Facebook or LinkedIn. You just do a live video every day of the challenge and just share your name, what you do, 3 things you're grateful for, and a piece of good news. And that's in the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page. Pinned to the top of that page, you'll see all the details. We then share that out to a few thousand people. So we've got lots going on there. I'm on many different social media channels. I'm also on BitChute and Rumble for those who want to see some more alternative content that I've put out that was banned off YouTube and banned off Facebook. You'll see it on Rumble and BitChute. And Conscious Community Global is also a brilliant Facebook group I recommend checking out. So they're all there in that link. Feel free to go through at your leisure and connect where you'd like to. They can also book in a free call with me if you'd like to. If you want to have a chat, you can book in a call. My Calendly link is also at that Linktree address right there on the screen. Thank you, Toms.
Thank you, Aldwyn. It was really a pleasure chatting with you, and it was such a loaded and such a passionate discussion with lots of good points for people who are under stress or people who want to have better relationship with their stress. Thank you so much, and hope you have a good evening ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Tom.